What's going on, Thunder Squad? This is the Raikaze here, and today we're going to be talking to you about the time in which I got robbed and the process that took place after that, how the judicial system is just plain old derpy, and on top of that, how GameStop even tried to rob me again. Let's get to it. Alright, so for those of you that are somehow unaware of what actually had taken place, this is actually 5 months later since the point in time this all happened. So it was back on March 12th, in which I came home from a very exhausting day over at the hospital, and just wanted to come home and just try to relax, and then come to find out that I couldn't really get into my home because something was just jarring the way. Didn't know if somebody just that had the key was like playing a prank or something like that. But when I finally got my way into the door, I found that the entire home was basically destroyed. So things that were even supposed to be in like the bedroom, for example, like the headboard that was on the bed was actually blocking the door as I was trying to get in. So when it fully dawned on me what was going on, I was like, this isn't a prank. Somebody actually robbed me. And that was like a really difficult feeling to have. It was a mixture of emotions because, one, you feel as though somebody's just gone through all of your things, so that's just already annoying. But then, two, I immediately start thinking about things that I can replace. I'm like, okay, so they took some material things, blah 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 blah. But then there are things which, as you all know, with the content that we typically have been doing on this channel, it was the Pokemon content in which that I've worked on, and this was just after the Pokemon Home had updated and I could actually transfer Pokemon into the game. So that was Pokemon I've worked, and strategies and team sets and all these things that I've worked on for basically a total of 20 years of information that had transferred down the line, and that was all taken away because the Switch was also gone. My laptop that had a lot of important files, school things that I was working on, all of that, even my backup drives, all taken away. So at that particular point, I was back at square one, having absolutely nothing. And it was a very dark place because I was trying to figure out what in the world do I need to do from this point forward so I can actually get back to where I was. Police had came over, they went through things, they were asking me, which is where how things get kind of weird, and I can't stand when issues like this take place, whether it be a robbery, whether it be a dispute or something of the sort, when law enforcement will tell you, you need to list everything that's missing. Well, I can't really touch anything because it's a crime scene, but you want me to tell you everything that's missing right here and now. How am I supposed to make a list unless I can literally go through every little piece and then figure it out? But then, oh no, you can actually do an updated list later on. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I've been through something like that before, within many years ago, and then they said, well, if it's not on the list, we can't give you anything, and it was just completely ridiculous. But so that's where honestly I firmly believe that the judicial system actually falls short, because when they actually came in, they even was telling me that they had an idea of who the individuals were. That already bothered me because they already had a clue of who it was, and they said that they were frequent flyers. I'm like, so why are these people getting back out here if they're frequent flyers and they're constantly doing the same thing? Do not know, can't really fathom why they keep doing it, and I keep letting them back out. But nonetheless, you have an idea of who it is. And on top of that, they've already robbed apparently 3 or 4 other houses that same day and stole a vehicle. So it was like completely flabbergasting that I'm like, if you have an idea who it is, you're getting fingerprints in my home right now, and you've somehow tracked down a stolen vehicle, but you didn't find the people. Surely you can just go and get them. Surely. But somehow you can't. It didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And that's why when I'm making this list and they're wanting me to talk about the value of everything, I'm like, I need to know really the extent of the damage. I need to know what's actually missing, because if you tell me that I can't change this form later on and you tell me, oh, well, it's not worth that much. Oh, no. It's worth a lot. And I need to know what's actually missing. But nonetheless, they said, hey, we think we got some things already in the stolen vehicle because that they found, and we want you to come on down to the station. I'm like, okay, cool. So that was actually just the next day. So I go on down, go down to the station. They take me back and they show me some of the things. They're like, well, we can't really technically give you anything or show you anything unless you can prove that it's yours. I'm like, luckily, the fact is, and not everybody does this, but luckily with me having a YouTube channel and me doing vlogs and things of the sort, there's been times in which I've gone around my home, or times where things would be in the backdrop, or if I've taken Instagram photos or things like that. You can see some of these things. You can see some things that I'm wearing. I mean, because they took, of course, jewelry, they took electronics, they took clothing, they took kitchen supplies. Don't even know why, but so there's some things I can never necessarily prove, but then there were some things that were pretty obvious. So when I went down to the station to see what I could get back, my biggest focus was, can I get my Switch back with everything intact, and can I get my laptop that has all of my important things for school and things of the sort. And I got like an Xbox 360 back that had none of its cables, my Xbox One, of course, no cables as well. Couple other trinkets here and there. Most of my jewelry was all taken and all that stuff. But those things, I was like, those can be replaced. But the things that I have, files that I've worked on for many, many years, that's what I need. And they were gone. So that was extremely bothersome. And they were like, we still think we know who it is. We're going to go after these people. Boom, boom, boom. Down the road later on, they find two people. They arrest them. And luckily also, they didn't take, as you guys can probably see right. No, it's not even over. Oh, yeah, well, we got some boxes over there. You can see that I even keep like Xbox 360 boxes, my Xbox One box. My Switch is somewhere over there, I think it's somewhere over there. But anywho, in these boxes, they have the serial numbers. And luckily, I was able to retrieve that information, and then I contacted the police, and they put a stop hold on any of these devices that were going to be tried to be sold. They can actually navigate to see where these items are. So like, let's say if they take it to a pawn shop, the pawn shop has to report the serial number, and if the officers are actually has the serial number on hold, then it will match, then the store cannot sell it, and then the police are supposed to retrieve it. They were able to then later on say, hey, we think we found your Switch because this matches the serial number. I'm like ecstatic. I'm like, yes, let me get my stuff. Let me see what's going on with this thing. But then they're like, well, we can't go get it because the store is out of the money because they paid for it from this person, which that also bothers me, because here's the fact of the matter is that should be the store's case, should it not? Because for me, my case is my things were stolen. You found my things at that store. Give me my stuff back and let that store chase down the person that sold it to them. Makes perfect sense. Why did they not do it? They were not following actual proper protocol, and I'll tell you about that later on, because they were just sitting on their butts. And it made absolutely no sense, because this was a third individual. This was even after the two other individuals were already apprehended. They had a third person that was going out selling the equipment. And I didn't know what exactly was sold, and I don't know what's missing. And then they're still wanting me to update my forms to see, hey, what's actually the true value of my items. And I'm like, I need to know what you guys have. Where are my things, so I can actually say, hey, this is what's mine. If this is intact, then I can remove that. And I just need to say, I try to be honest, with everything, and say, hey, this is the actual value of the things that's missing. or damage, etc., etc. So let me make sure I get my things back. And if it is, then the value drops, and that I want to make the, I guess you'll say, the sentencing or something, comparable to what they've done. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not trying to say, oh, you guys took like $1 million from me. No, I'm not gonna do something as dumb as that. But that's what I'm trying to say. That it's going to. I'm trying to be really legitimate with this type of situation as it is. And whenever I was even asking them, like, hey, which store is it? Which is it, a pawn shop? And then the investigator's like, oh no, it's actually a GameStop. I'm like, okay, so there's it was like 6 or 7 GameStops in my general area. And I'm like, okay, which one is it? And he's like, I can't tell you that. I'm like, what do you mean you can't tell me which GameStop it is? So at that point, long story short, in terms of that, I started making my own phone calls because he would not tell me where it was or anything. And that was really peeing me off. So I start making phone calls. I'm contacting every single GameStop that I could get the number of. And all of them are saying, no, we don't have anything like that. I give them the serial number. All of them saying, we don't have anything. And I'm like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. But there's one GameStop that was closed because of the virus that was going around, and that was the one in the mall. So I'm like, well, maybe it's over there because that's the only one that's closed. Maybe they just had shut down, and then more stores started closing down because of the virus, and then everything was I was just being out of luck. And then the court dates that was already initially planned also kept getting pushed back because of the virus. So I'm sitting there not knowing what I could get, what I needed to replace, and where even the future of the channel was going to be. And I couldn't even really record anything because, hey, I only had like my phone. I couldn't really do the actual editing or anything of that sort. So I just put some postings here and there, and I'm just like, hey, I can't really do anything right now because I'm in the middle of a robbery and going through the case. Don't even know what equipment I'm getting back. I had no clue of anything. Then, basically, after, let's see, we had court. It was beginning of May is when we actually had court. So this is already, so March, April, May. So we're 2 months later on. Then we finally have court. I finally see the 2 individuals that were caught. That other third individual that was selling the items, still out there. Still out there. But anywho, after that point, I see those 2 individuals. We have the case, and we actually had to do it in a type of social distancing manner where they called us in one at a time, all the witnesses or victims, and we had to go and give a report of what was transpired, what the value is. And even when I was in there, I was like, hey, they were asking me what the value is. I told them the value. I said, however, if my items are missing their files, or damage in any way in a couple of those items, which is going to talk about my Switch and or my laptop, these things, if they don't have what I need them to have, the value is going to go up tremendously because that's a lot of years of work that cannot be backed up. Well, like the Switch, for Pokemon stuff, they don't back up anything on the online system, which, yeah, that's a whole nother story. But then also with my laptop, if they took my backup drives along with it, then if they don't give it back with all the files, then I have to start everything over. And that's just, yeah. So I made that known even in the court case, and I know they were going to get that on recording. So I was like, cool, I got that statement in, we're good to go. I leave court, then I'd have to start contacting the investigator again. I contact the lawyer, and I'm saying, hey, how can I get now the order for me to get my things that's at that GameStop? So then they start going through that full process. Had to wait another couple weeks or so, and then I finally got it. I got the document that said, hey, go and get your items, and it's at a certain GameStop. And it was at one of the GameStops that I had already called, and that they told me that they had nothing. And I get that sometimes that they can say, oh, well, they don't want to talk about it because it's a legal matter. I have the freaking serial number. It's my item. I'm just saying, hey, I just need to know what's there so I can then make out my list. But they wouldn't talk to me. And yet even the officers aren't going through all the items. And I'm just sitting there out of the loop, not knowing what in the world can I do. But anywho, I got the list. I got the store rather. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let me go ahead and go out to the store. Let me go and see what I can get back. I finally got that list. So this was like in maybe what? On May, I want to say like the 12th, 13th or something like that. So I drive on out to the GameStop and I take them the list and I say, hey, you know, these are the things that belong to me. I have the order form. Actually, I even got it right here. This is the order form. It has the court order and everything of that sort on it. I give it to them and then they're like, well, you need to have an officer here because we need to have this done. I'm like, okay, that's totally fine because they don't want to release it. They don't even want to show me anything or whatnot. I'm like, cool. You know what? That's totally fine. I'll go ahead and do that. So I go outside because they were only letting like 5 people in the store at the same time. So I didn't want to hold anything up. So I go outside, I call the police and say, hey, this is the things that's going on. I need you all to come out here so I can get my things back. Cool. Wait a while. The officer finally shows up and then I give him this form. And then he's like, this is where, again, things just get really stupid. He's telling me, well, this requires a signature from the judge. And now this here has a signature right there. And he's like, well, is that the judge's signature? I can't tell what that is. And I'm like, okay, how many times have you seen people actually sign their name like with like some type of scribble or something like that? And he wants me to verify if that's the judge's signature. That was sent to me in the mail that because they couldn't give it to me in person. They sent that to me. It already had a seal stamp on there. And I'm like, you want me to tell you if that's the judge's signature? How does that make sense? Am I going to tell you that yes, that's the judge's signature? I don't know. And they're like, well, they don't have a printed segment there, so how do we know? I'm like, again, this was sent to me. You all know this document better than me. Y'all are the ones that's working with this. But we go back into the store and he takes it to them and the GameStop is like, oh no, we need to have all this different information. We need the officer's badge number. Then the officer's then telling me, oh, you need to have the investigator here, who the investigator was the one that wasn't even telling me anything whatsoever. And I was going through the district attorney's numbers and contacts and things of the sort to get this all taken care of. But then he's like, you should have the investigator here. And that was just getting me so angry. And so then I had to contact the district attorney because the investigator wasn't responding again. Then they said it's going to take a little bit for them to get the documents. And they wanted me to come certain days, but I had to work on certain days. And with the quote-unquote virus hours on different franchises like GameStop, by the time I even got off of work, they were already closed. And by the time I was at work, they weren't even open yet. So, I mean, no matter what, I was out of luck. So I was like, all right, cool. Let me just set up a day where I can go over there. One day I actually went over to the courthouse. The district attorney she thought she can get the documents, but since the case was sent over to the Supreme Court at that point, because after the verdict and everything, apparently the value was just so high with everything involved, they said they had to go to the Supreme Court. All the documents were already sent over to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court individuals were not at the courthouse that day, so they didn't know what to do. Another day I went back to the District Attorney General's office. I just went there, just out of the blue, because I'm like, look, GameStop is telling me that they can't give me my items back. Here's the document, and the District Attorney General is looking at it, and they're like, I don't see why they wouldn't give you anything. This doesn't make any sense. All the information is here. When they're talking about that they want like a case number, it's the warrant number right on top of this form. The signature is here. It has everything it needs. So then all she does is she simply puts another stamp on it, and she just writes a little note that says, if you have any questions, please contact her. I take it back to the GameStop. Take it back again, and I call the police on my way there. The same officer that was there the previous time shows up. The same one. And I show it to him, and he's like, well, you know you're supposed to have the investigator. I was like, again, this is the same as investigator. He's not responding to my calls. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. And then he looks at me and he's like, okay. Then he looks at the form. He's like, I was like, look, I immediately flipped it back because he's the one that said that we didn't have what we needed. And I said, the district attorney general put another stamp on here, even though there's a stamp on the front right there, but she put another stamp on the back. And then he's like, let's go get your stuff. So this is something that could have been done the previous time. It could have been taken care of, but it wasn't. I go into the store and he says, hey, you guys got to relinquish it. She just takes the paper then, and then she asks for the officer's badge number, which he gives her that information, and then she just copies the stuff off of the sheet and she gives me my stuff. That was there. And what was there? What did I wait all this time for? The switch that was there, that was completely wiped clean. So it had nothing on there. So 20 years worth of work, all gone. They also had maybe a couple controllers here and there, and no laptop, no camera, no microphones, none of my tech stuff. All that was still gone. So I waited all this time for a handful of things. And even with the things that I did get back, none of the items had any of their cable connectors. Like the Switch, for example, didn't even have its dock. So I had to then repurchase all of these things in order for me to even do what I'm doing right now in making this video. So things are still out large right now. And this is 5 months later. I still have not even heard back from the Supreme Court case. I've been in contact with them saying, hey, you know, I've told you all that some of my things were missing. They had told me that, you know, in many cases with robberies, people would actually take what they think they can get away with, and then they'll toss the rest of the stuff. And they said the people that they had captured, that we had the court case with, they could not reveal. No, those individuals basically would not tell them where the rest of the stuff were. Don't know why, or don't know what that even matters to a certain degree. But then even so, they even said that they couldn't even get the third person that was selling the items. But even with the GameStop, it had the record of the individual that sold them the stuff. So, do tell me, how is it that you cannot find this person if you have his information that was given to the GameStop? Somebody, pray tell. Why does that seem so inconceivable that you can't actually just say, hey, this person is selling stolen equipment. We have his information. Let's go get him. Hey, this stuff belongs to this individual. Because even when I went to the district attorney general's office, for example, and I explained to her the entire situation, she's like, I don't see why they didn't give you your things in the beginning. Back since, what, March or April? Whenever things were actually sold to the GameStop, they actually, with me having the information of my items, they said that they should have given it to me since back then. And I could have known what I was dealing with and what I was missing since that period of time. But since they all refused to give me the proper information, I was constantly screwed over time and time and time again, not knowing what in the world was going on. So all in all, I mean, that was the full-on journey. And then from that period of time, I've been rebuilding, and here we are today. After the robbery had happened in March, then by mid-April, I moved, and I'm at, of course, in a new setup, as y'all can tell. I relocated. I went through all the court proceedings, and then once figuring out that I needed to rebuild on all my equipment, I started slowly making more purchases and trying to rebuild everything, and getting things to where we are today. In terms of the Pokemon, which I've mentioned that as well, I mean, I started that pretty much from scratch. I did a lot of things on the back end, but it really does also upset me that there's not even a backup for that, because with all that amount of years of work that was in the back end, all being just taken away, I'm just imagining, like, what happens if my Switch got broken or something again, or stolen or something, there's no backup, and it's just gone. I mean, it's just gone at that period. But that just sucked. It really sucked, and it was really a lot of incompetence in many cases, on many sides, because one, I felt as though the GameStop was honestly just trying to hold on to my things, and they were just trying to like keep it, basically. I'm like, give me my stuff. You know it belongs to me, and I'm just wanting the things that belong to me. I don't want anything extra, but you won't. And then for the officers, that number one, saying, oh, you need a signature, there's a signature right there, why don't you do this? Or, hey, I can't tell you where it's at. It's my stuff. You can tell me where it's at, or you're just refusing to tell me where it's at. I mean, so many things was just going backwards, basically. And I'm just like, why y'all treat me like this? Why are you all not going through proper protocol and just getting things done? And they blame it on the virus a lot, but honestly, there was a lot of things in there that could have gone a whole lot better. And I mean, people that had their vehicle stolen, they got that back, but I was the one that's sitting around. And I guess they were feeling as though it wasn't that important to them. But I'm like, if you want to know the actual value of what's missing, I need to know if my files are there. I need to know these things. And this is going to take probably more court proceedings, and I'm trying to still stay on top of that because I'm not letting it down. Why are they constantly letting these individuals out if they keep doing the exact same thing? And I mean, they're destroying lives this way. I'm gonna do what I can to put it to a stop. So that was my wonderful journey of going through this robbery and getting to where we are 5 months later. And I'm going to continue working in rebuilding and getting things squared away so we can actually really get back to the content, hopefully before classes start, because classes are actually right around the corner. So I got a few more videos that I'm going to be working on, get that all squared away for you all, and we can finally get back to some type of normalcy. But at this moment in time, never take anything less than what you know that you deserve. You all know what to do. Stay strong and you power on. Catch y'all later.